Hey everybody, this is Kevin and welcome to another build video in my build video series on Max Q rockets. Now this is a brand new release that they're just debuting. It's the Firefly Alpha, and this particular kit is 1/100th scale and it flies on 18mm motors, the typical A's, B's, and C's. I can imagine though on a C this thing would go out of sight, so make sure you got plenty of eyes on it when you fly it on a C. You can see how relatively small this is. Now this is more or less an entry-level rocket. There's no glue involved. Everything is screw-on. Now when I say no glue involved, because the way I do my setup, I will personally use a little bit of CA glue or super glue on some of the Kevlar attachments. But the rocket itself assembles by screw-on adapters and units. So that being said, let's just go ahead and get right into the build. It's not a very long build, but I will explain things as we go. The first thing you want to do is, which I think would be probably the hardest part and most time consuming, is getting the shock cord installed. Okay, now one thing I do want to point out is, since this is just a beta, prototype version, we had to decide how we're going to run the shock cord out of the body tube. And so what I've elected to do just on this practice piece basically is I drilled a couple holes in the side of the launch lug standoff, and then I ran my Kevlar through them, and then I tied a knot on the other side, and I drilled one hole down into the body tube to route the shock cord up and out the front. What that does is it basically allows for a clean through hole with no hang-ups or anything. It's pretty clean. In fact, it doesn't get much cleaner than that. So that's the idea for the prototype, and we'll see how it comes out in final production. But that's going to be a good mount to get the shock cord clear of the parachute and possibly snagging on anything inside. So, all right. So now let's go ahead and attach the Kevlar to the rest of the mount. Now the other part we need to attach is a little Kevlar loop to the bottom side of the nose cone or capsule. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed one end of the Kevlar up and the other one back down the other hole. And where the two meet up, we're just going to tie a knot with them together. See how well I can do this. There we go. One more, almost got him.
Years later.
Probably should have cut this a little bit longer to give me some more to work with, but there. Okay, we got it. Now in this case, I am going to glue the knot so it doesn't come back open on us. So just one little dab of glue. Oh, that's a little too much there. Give it a squirt and let that dry. Wipe some of this mess up. I'm making a mess here. Okay, now we'll just cut this little tail off. And now we've got our loop that will hold the shock cord as well as the parachute on that end right there. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to take the top of the capsule, and this is really tough. Screw it on. Done. Now I will tell you off camera, I did do a little bit of sanding. It's not difficult. I just took some 220 and I laid it on the shoulder of the nose cone, and I just rotated the nose cone within the sandpaper just to lower that just a bit so it would slide in easier. You don't want any hangups on this whatsoever, or that'll just be disastrous. So, okay, now back to our Kevlar again. I want to tie a similar knot to what we just did. I want to put a loop in this end because this is what we're going to attach the elastic to. Okay. There, I did a little bit better that time. Okay. And as before, I do want to illuminate that tail. And again, you want to illuminate little things that can get caught on the nose cone shoulder or the parachute, anything that could hinder successful deployment. Okay. And we'll cut the remainder off. There. Okay, so now we got that. Wipe some of this glue off. Okay, now you want to take a little piece of elastic. In this case, this is rubber shock cord that actually came off an old Estes kit. You can use this, you can use the braided elastic that you can get at like at Walmart. Any of these things will work. And the nice thing about them is they're replaceable. So if this starts to get brittle at some point in the future, I can just untie it and put on a new one. So I'm just doing a double knot onto that loop. Okay. And again, we're gonna cut the little tail off. Let me angle the camera down just a little bit, man. I'm afraid I've probably missed some stuff on camera. Okay, now in this case, you're gonna wanna use a little wood glue. White glue would work too. I mentioned earlier just super glue, but I forgot that I do also use a little bit of wood glue just to hold this knot from ever opening up. Again, these knots, if you really think about it, these knots hold everything together and they keep the expensive stuff from departing the parachute, which you definitely don't want to have happen. Okay, now at the other end of our rubber cord, we want to cut an angle. So you get like a point, because that's going to go into our ball swivel, and I'm sorry, snap swivel, that's the term. I was like, that didn't sound right. Okay, then we're going to tie a knot on that just like we did on the other end. Okay, and just cut that little tail off. One little drop of wood glue. And just kind of rub it into the knot with your finger. Okay, there we have it. So now we've got the shock cord all set up. And we can actually now mount the snap swivel to our nose cone piece. Like that. And we can test fit and put everything in there now. Just fold your shock cord up. This is the way I do it. Everyone has their own way. That's just fine. Okay, and assuming that you did get that sanded down enough, it's smooth, it just slides right in. See? Nice and smooth. Okay, so there pretty much is the completed rocket. The only other thing we have to do left is apply the decals and the fin. But before we install the fin, I'll just show you how the motor mount works. You slide your 18mm motor in there. You just take your motor cap and screw this onto it, and it conceals the motor. But I'll show you with the fin on. You slip your fin right over that coupler, slide your cap on, and then screw it down. Make sure your fins don't block the angle on the launch lug. So center it in a way that it's between two fins like there, and just tighten down your motor mount, and there you have it. The rocket structurally is done. Okay, so now I'm going to take my decals, which are both water slide, and get my water set up, and we will apply the decals. So let me clear the bench and get this ready. Okay, next up we've got the decals. Now this, for me personally, is fun. I know a lot of people it's arduous and and painful, but I personally enjoy it because it's bringing life, it's bringing realism, it's bringing some scale appearance to the rocket. But one thing I really want to point out to you, and I haven't shown this in a while, is I created a little, it's a formula, but a little worksheet that I created to properly place your decals. So looking at the instructions, now the nose cone decals, there's a little, I guess, I don't know if that's a torch with wings, I'm not sure. I guess it's a Firefly, if you want to be honest. I guess that would make sense. And there's a small American flag that goes on the shoulder, the transition piece. Those are centered, so I don't need to measure anything there. But where is the Firefly decal located within the span of the body tube? That's what I want to figure out, because I want to scale this correctly. So what I do is I take a ruler and I use millimeters because it's a lot easier to do the math. And I created this little formula. Simply measure the picture in millimeters, and you find anything as a reference. So in this case, I used the black tube. From the top of the tube to the very bottom of the tube, and I came up with 141 millimeters. Okay, then I measured the actual tube. So I went to the actual rocket and measured from the base of the black to the top of the black, and I got 216 millimeters. So to get our multiplier, you take the actual divided by the picture to get the M, the multiplier. When you do that, you come up with 1.5. It was like 1.532, blah, blah, blah. But I just rounded it to 1.5. So now anything we measure on the paper, we multiply times 1.5 to get the placement on the tube. Now when we get to this decal, I'll show you that in better detail. But let's go ahead and get the capsule done first. I want to get that done and get something started here. I'm going to disconnect the capsule from the rocket temporarily. I'll set that up out of the way. And just to make things a little easier, I'm going to remove the base of the nose cone also. So we just have this piece to work with. Now, if you notice, one side has a seam line on it, and if that seam line is unsightly to you, well, that might be the side you might want to put the decal on, because the decal will actually cover that up. If you don't like it, then you can put it on the back side, and then you've got a clean surface. Two options. I'm actually going to go with the seam line on the back, because the rocket itself, the launch lug, is also running with the seam, and that's always on the back of the rocket. So I'm going to match that by going smooth side. Okay, let me take our first decal, dip it in the water. In fact, I can take the American flag. I've already obviously pre-cut these. I'm going to take my tweezers. And I always work with a Q-tip and just a loose paper towel to dab some of the water up with. Let me get the black decal up out of the way. Okay, now these decals activate very quickly. So we can go ahead and grab the large Firefly, lay it down right in the middle, pull the backing out, and voila. Beautiful. Now let's just kind of work with it while it's still got some moisture behind it. I'm looking from above to see where that seam line is. We want to be directly across from it. Okay, there we go. Now we just want to level it and kind of perfect it a little bit. So now we take our Q-tip and squeegee out any water and moisture. Take out any wrinkles that might be in there. There, just like that. Beautiful little decal. All right, now it's time to put the flag on. We're going to put the flag right below it on that shoulder. So we'll pull it out of the water. Okay. Using the tweezers as a tool, you just sort of work it into position, centered. Okay. And you might see I'm laying one finger down. That's just to hold the decal from sliding when I wick the moisture out with the Q-tip. There. Now once you get it laid down, you still got a little bit of time to maneuver really don't need to. It looks pretty good the way it is. So we're gonna go with that. Okay, so that is now done. So we're gonna leave that off to the side to dry. Okay, now onto the body tube. Now just to make things a little less cumbersome, let's go ahead and remove the fin unit. Okay, now again, we're gonna be working opposite the side of the launch lug. Now, here's where we gotta do some math and do our measurements. Oops, sorry, let me get my bump the camera there. Let me get my calculator out. Okay, we wanna measure in millimeters. Let's look at the top of the tube to the top of the letter F. So we're gonna measure this span right there, okay? So that in millimeters comes out to be looks to be 36 millimeters. See that? 36 is where the top of the F starts. And we're starting at the top of the black tube there. So 36 millimeters, okay, from the top. So where does that land us on this rocket? We want to take 36 times our multiplier, which was 1.5. And that gives us 54. So we want to measure down 54 millimeters from the top of the tube to get our location. Now what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to take just a little snippet of masking tape to act as a marker, a locator. Okay, so we're going to measure from the top down to 54. So that puts us right there. Now if you're off by a millimeter, nobody's going to notice or care. But I like to be as exact as I can, because then you know you gave it your best, you know, you put your all into it. Okay, so now I know that the Firefly decal, the F is going to land right at the bottom of that tape. Okay, and you can also say here, on this seam line runs into one of this gray little notches. Well, it's the same way on the other side. So if I line my decal up with this notch here, we're going to be directly across from the launch lug. Okay, so that's our goal. So let's go ahead and get this in the water. Okay, we'll let that soak for a minute. Well, actually, this decal paper works very quickly. It only takes probably 10 or 15 seconds. In fact, you can see it there. It's already uncurling and it's about ready to go. Now I am going to pre-wet the tube so we can slide it around and work with it a little bit before it sets. You want some working time. Okay. Okay, the decal is coming off. So, I'm just gonna do this by hand here. Just gonna slide that off. Okay, now we get to manipulate and play with things a little bit. Okay, I'm trying to line it up with that gray channel right there. Trying to get it straight vertical, best I can. Okay, that looks good. So I'm gonna put my thumb on the Y, and I was going to gently, very gently, run the Q-tip up and down. Okay, now I can remove that tape to lay the top down. Kind of rolling as I go. Okay, it still looks really good. So what I want to do now is take my paper towel and use it to apply pressure. I'm not sliding, I'm just putting direct pressure down on it to work out any more moisture. There we go. That looks really good. Really, really sharp. Okay, so we're going to set that aside, and off camera I'm going to take these out and apply. I use Quick Shine clear floor polish over my water slide decals. You can use Future, which is made by Pledge. That may or may not be manufactured anymore. So if you can find a bottle of it, snag it up, because they're very hard to come by. But either one of those will work. If you like to spray clear coat paint, by all means, just be leery of it. Does add weight to your rocket, but it does produce a glossy shine that I can't deny looks really, really good. So whatever your preference is for clear coating, that's up to you. But I'm going to go out and clear coat it, and we'll come back and do a final wrap up. Well, that concludes our building of the Firefly Alpha from Max Q Rockets, and now you can see there's a bit of a gloss to the rocket. I have cleared it with, I went with the Pledge Future polish on this one, but you can see that floor polish really brings a gloss to not only the decals but the ABS plastic as well. And we've still got nice smooth operation of the nose cone. One thing I failed to mention, I believe, earlier, and if I've said it already, I apologize, but the capsule, because it opens up, will actually fit a small minimum diameter altimeter. So if you have a Jolly Logic 2 that you're willing to take out of its case, or Jolly Logic 1 for that matter, or even the simple Estes altimeter, should fit in here with no problem. So, and if you do that, remember you need to drill some altimeter vent holes. So I leave that up to you as to where you may want to drill. If you want to do it in the capsule, that's fine. If you want to do it in the tube somewhere, that's fine too. If you drill the holes in the black plastic, it might be less visible. Just something to think about. But yeah, this is probably one of the easiest and fun little builds. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was easy, but it wasn't not fun, I still enjoyed building it. I hope to build many more of these. I mean, I can see somebody, gathering a whole fleet of these in their collection. But and one thing I will warn you about, it's made for A's, B's, and C's. And if you were really adventurous, you could probably put a Quest D in there. This thing will probably hit 1,000 feet on a B. A C, I can only imagine what this thing would do. And a D, you better have good eyesight or a miniature GPS tracker or something, because this is going to be way, way up and out there. So, but anyway, yeah, super simple build. If this is your first time getting into rocketry, this would be an ideal first rocket to build. If you're an experienced rocketeer and you just want something to relax and have on your shelf to fly whenever, another great opportunity here. So yeah, that was fun. Thank you, Max Q Rockets, for providing me this test build. There should be no reason why this won't make it out to my next launch day's flight video, so you should see this in the air here very, very shortly. And don't worry, I won't be launching on anything crazy. I'll probably stick with A's and B's on the initial flights just to see what we get. But yeah, so that concludes the video. Thanks for watching, everybody. God bless, and we'll see you on the next one.